All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Go With The Flow. I'm your host, Folarin Okulaja, back with another special guest in the building. I say all my guests are special. You are special. Anyone who takes the time to come on my show, I appreciate them for taking out the time. But we
appreciate you for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. So we have Dennis here,
Dennis
Franklin, or Dennis Free, as most people know him. And we're going to get much more into the DJing. But the way that I want to start this is just getting into your background a little bit. So do you want to take a few minutes to just like tell the people about yourself, where you're from, who is Dennis? Because people only see you behind I don't even know that. What's it called?
The decks.
The decks. People only see Dennis behind the deck.
Yeah, that's actually, I'll talk about that later. That's a big internal conflict I have all the time of not being able to tell people who I am. But I'm Dennis Franklin. I was born and raised in Oakland, California, pretty much my whole life. Not really actually my whole life, really only half of my life. All through elementary school and high school. When I was 4 years old, I started playing ice hockey.
How'd you pick hockey in Oakland, California?
Yeah, so one of my dad's really good friends, and also black, and now it's like a pretty integral part of the story. Because I don't think I ever would have picked hockey otherwise if I hadn't seen someone who looked like me playing it before. But one of my dad's friends was a hockey coach in the area. He grew up and his name is Mark Cornwell. He grew up in South Central LA, playing, like, he was growing up with three brothers, and his mom basically told him, like, you could play any sport except football, baseball, basketball. So you got to play something different. So he picked hockey, played throughout his life, and then moved up to Oakland, had a kid named Forrest. And when I was 4 years old, Mark had told my dad, like, you should come, because I was starting to get into sports. He said, you should come to this hockey game and see if Dennis likes it. My dad's name is also Dennis, so that's something.
So you're a junior. How does it wait? You're a second.
I'm not a second either. I'm just a different person because I have a different middle name, and it's a good thing to know. You have to have the same exact name every single middle name. So if you hear like Henry John Jacob John the fifth,
like, they've all been Henry John
the same
Jacob.
middle name. My dad's name is Dennis Lerone Franklin. My name is Dennis Lerone Yee Franklin. Yee being my mom's maiden name. But yeah, so I went to this hockey game, and I remember it was in Cupertino, California, in the mall, and I was standing in the rink, and it was super cold, but I got up on the glass and was standing next to my dad, and I was just seeing these kids skate around, and then I kept seeing Forrest, and he was like the one black kid out there, and I was like, I want to be that guy. So then I told my dad, like, I want to get into it. So rather than just throwing me on the ice like most other parents did, he was a Navy SEAL, so he really cared about process for everything. So he told me, you're going to learn how to skate first before you learn how to do anything else. So I took figure skating lessons for 8 months.
Wow.
And then right when they started using the toe picks, got out of figure skating and just started playing hockey, picked up a stick. So then, from when I was 4 years old all the way till pretty much I started high school, I was playing hockey. After in my sophomore year of high school, I moved down to a team in Los Angeles. And when I started playing there, I had to fly down 3 days a week for practice, basically.
You said fly?
Yeah. Damn. So I'd get out of school at and luckily at the time my mom worked for United Airlines, so I was able to get free flights, which was great.
That'll do it. Yep.
But yeah, I'd get out of school at like 3:30, get to the airport at 4. Get on the plane for a 4:30 flight, get down there, have practice, get back on the plane.
How long is the flight?
About an hour and a half.
Okay.
Hour and a half, yeah. So I do that like pretty much every other day, and then on the weekends we go to tournaments in like Chicago, Buffalo, wherever.
Damn.
And after a little bit, it was like maybe 4 or 5 months, I was not doing as well as I thought I could in school. Like the time management, I was doing well, but I just like wasn't sufficient enough for me to like be really going anywhere. So I just decided I was gonna go to boarding school, and I got recruited by a few and ended up picking Taft, which is up in Watertown, Connecticut. And then that's kind of how I got onto the East Coast.
Okay. So it was hockey that actually brought you here?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Again, hockey was like everything in my life was surrounded by like, I'm gonna go to college to go play ice hockey.
Interesting.
Like music was not really in the picture. There was nothing going on except like when you get out of school, you don't hang out with friends, nothing goes on, you just go to practice.
Yeah.
So I was very dedicated to that, and that was kind of my whole focus up through pretty much up until I went to college, I'd say.
And I have some friends who were very good at certain sports, but actually didn't watch it at all. Like I'm thinking of one of my friends, David, who very good soccer player. He was actually 2 episodes ago. Very good soccer player, but he never used to watch soccer.
Hmm.
Are you someone who actually watches hockey, or
Yeah.
I guess you're actually into watching the sport of hockey?
Yeah, my dad got we had DirecTV and he got like the hockey package
Wow,
every
damn.
single day. So he'd go to practice, or I'd get out of school if I was for the teams that I was playing in the Bay Area. I'd get out of school, like go home, do my homework, and then while I was eating to get ready to go to practice, we'd be watching a game, and then I'd go to practice and come back and then watch a game on the West Coast.
Wow.
So I'd always be watching hockey, like playing, doing whatever I could. But yeah, that was kind of my focus until I got through high school, and I got offers from Hamilton and Amherst to go.
Shout out Amherst.
And
Shout out Grant,
yeah,
my
shout
roommate
out
Grant.
Amherst.
Yeah, shout out Amherst.
But in order to do that, they basically required me to go play juniors, which is basically these leagues in between high school and college that a lot of hockey players have to go to for a
Yeah.
couple years to develop and get stronger. And I'm not the biggest guy, so it was like definitely necessary for me. But in that same process, I was very good academically at school, and I just applied to a ton of schools, and I got into Columbia, and I just sat down and thought about it, like, do I want to be in the middle of nowhere for another 4 years like I just was, or do I want to go to a city? And I realized like at this point, hockey was definitely important to me, but at that point in time in my senior year, I was kind of also really interested in other things like music, like just general social activities, and I felt like I was at a place where I could step back and just focus on the academics and be in a city like New York, which I always really wanted to do. So
And it's funny because at Princeton, I had a lot of my friends were on the hockey team, so they also explained to me that whole process of having to spend a year or two
yeah,
at these teams before then coming, and as a result, most of them are like a year or two older than us.
yeah, exactly.
And do you have any regrets about that decision now, about
No.
not going to do more hockey, or are you happy with how
Absolutely
things have
not.
worked out
I
up
think
until now?
I think there's so many every single day I could name like 10 things that I do that day that would never have happened had I not come to Columbia.
Yeah.
I think like anything musically related I would have been focused on, because I'd be in the same mindset every day. I'm gonna wake up, practice, work out, do this, do that. Um yeah, and I just think I would have been in a completely different place. Maybe I would have enjoyed it because I wouldn't have ignorance is bliss type of
Yeah.
thing. But in terms of like doing some stuff related to my passions and whatnot, I think is absolutely the best choice. And New York is just incredible. So I really benefited not only from the school itself, but also from just the city that I've been in. So
And we're going to get much more into the music later and how you actually got into DJing. But before even then, are you someone who's just always considered yourself a creative person, or while you were playing hockey, did you have other sorts of creative outlets, or was that just sort of it for you?
In before I got to high school, definitely not. I would just like, cause I just didn't have anything else to do but play hockey.
No time. Yeah,
I was very
yeah.
like I always tell my friends now, like in middle school I would consider myself like if they made a movie about my middle school, I would be like one of the loser kids for sure. Like
Everyone's a loser in middle school.
Yeah.
Low key though.
'Cause I was the kid. I remember I was getting dubbed by all my crushes. Like I was wearing, like knee high socks and shorts to school, because all I wanted to do was go right when I got to school. And this was even into like the first 2 years of high school. I'd go and I'd have my classes. Then at lunchtime we played basketball for like an hour, and I sucked at basketball, but I'd play and I'd start sweating crazy, and I'd go to class sweating still crazy, and people would look at me just like I was insane
Who
and
is
I
this
smelled
kid?
bad, whatever. So it was just like I wasn't really cognizant of like how I was being perceived. And I honestly think it was maybe a good thing, but then because of that, I also wasn't like that interested in the creative side. Like I listened to a lot of music, definitely. And I think I've always had the interest in music. But in terms of like actually doing something creative, I wasn't really involved in that until I got to high school, and then I started SoundCloud rapping with all my friends, and that was kind of my first intro into all of that.
Do those SoundCloud raps, do they still exist online for the people to go see?
A couple do actually. we had a group in high school called at Taft, called AOG. Stands for Always on Grind. It was me. Um, I was my name before Dennis Free of my like alias was Franklin Future.
Okay.
And that was like all through high school. So I was like Franklin Future. We had another kid, uh AO what was his name? AOG Jamal, AOG and then it was like AOG this, AOG that, basically for all of them. It was me, my friend Jamal, Dom, Lonnie, who was my roommate at Columbia, and then Eugene, who was a year below us. And we would just be every day. I had like the biggest room in senior year, and we would just be rapping after school every single day. And we probably sucked, but we were having a good time.
You're having a good time.
Because we posted the first song that we ever made, and on SoundCloud it got like 8,000 views, and we were like, oh my God,
we're next up, yeah.
So yeah, that was a good time. But again, it wasn't like anything serious where I was like, oh, I could actually make money off of this, or I could do this and that. I never really, even with DJing, for a long time when I was doing it, I never really thought about it as like a revenue source at all. I just have, and I still really don't. I kind of just think about, I want the money, obviously it's good, but I don't really think about it as like a need to survive type of thing, you know?
Yeah, honestly, I think a good way to look at these things. And when you hear people talk about their passions, they're like, they don't do it for work or for the money. When you're just good at it and you put that much time, effort into it, that will just come as a result of the effort that you put into it. That's why I look at this podcast.
Yeah.
When people ask me what my dream job is, I'm like, ideally one day this will pay the bills, but I'm not doing it to like become famous and become a millionaire. It's just like, it's my little side hustle for the time being.
No, I think the other day, like this past week has been just like crazy with work and whatnot. But after this long week of work, I had a couple of sets this weekend as well, and my roommates were like, you just always working, like can't you just stop and just rest? But to me, I'm like,
always on grind. AOG.
Like, I'm going out to think from my perspective, I'm going to the club and just doing a set. Like if you wanted to rest, you would also go to the club and just chill. I just get to DJ, and that's more fun to me than sitting there just speaking to people, to be honest.
Which is fair. It's probably more exhausting to go out and not be doing the DJing, because you're like trying to talk to girls, you're like drinking, you're like doing a lot. So you probably have
to chill in the booth. I get free drinks. It's a net positive.
You get free drinks when you DJ? Like as much as you want?
Pretty much, yeah. Damn. Free drinks. I
You
get paid. Like I going out for the last 2 years, I'm net positive on nights out. I haven't not spending $1.
That's insane. I can't even explain to you how
it's just great
in the red I am when it comes to nights out. Damn. Okay, good to know. So you probably just slide your boys drinks out the whole.
Oh yeah.
That's funny because I have a friend who's a DJ. He's never, and we've been to a bunch of his shows, he's never once got us any drinks.
He keeping it from you. Because everybody gets drink tickets. I know every set I've been to definitely get some drinks there.
And so, okay, before we fully get into the music, I'm curious about your time at Columbia. So you said you're always academically inclined, you applied, you got in. Actually, first, where else did you go and where else were you considering when you applied to schools?
I applied to like 16 schools, because with hockey, when you're recruiting for Division III, you can't really commit, or most people don't commit until their senior year. So and the problem with hockey is, since it's in the winter, you don't really know if you're confirmed to go somewhere until after the season is over, but all the applications are due in like December or whatever.
Yeah.
So I sent in applications to like nearly every NESCAC, and then on top of that, like a ton of schools on the West Coast and this and that, a lot of the Ivies. But in terms of like where I was choosing between, it was really just Columbia and Amherst and Hamilton. I didn't get into any of the other Ivies. I got waitlisted a couple.
Same here, man.
And then
Same here.
Yeah,
it's funny how that works out.
And I was like, it's fine.
All you need is one. That's
exactly. All you need is one. So then, and then I had a couple others like on the West Coast that I was thinking about, but those were kind of my priority. So it wasn't that difficult of a choice, I'd say, to do that.
Was there ever a dream school? Like for me, it was Duke, because when we moved from Nigeria when I was 9. We moved to North Carolina. My mom went to Duke Law School, so that was the first school I ever knew in the country. So for me, that was always like the dream school. Did you ever have a school like that for you?
Honestly, Columbia was, I wouldn't say Columbia was a dream school, but Columbia was definitely like, I was like, if I go to Colombia, I'm just gonna have the best time because growing up, my favorite movie in the world was Hitch, with
The
Will
Will Smith
Smith.
movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know every word to that movie. I watch it all the time. And the reason that I loved it so much was because the scenes that they would show in New York was just so beautiful. And I was like, if I can live that life, that's just so insane. And Columbia was like the best school that I could have applied to in the city. And I was like, it's either there or NYU, and that like it'd just be insane to be there. And I went to it's actually funny. I was getting ready to tour Princeton. We had my parents and I got a hotel the night before, and we woke up in the morning and we got an alert that there was like from the admissions office that there was like a shooter on the campus or something.
It's funny because
And
wait, would this have been your
it was like my junior year of high school.
junior of high
It was
school?
a
I
good amount
remember this
ago.
because I remember my senior year. I literally remember being in the cafeteria. It was at the Panera on Nassau Street. I remember that day. I
Yeah.
remember that story. I remember all that.
Yeah, so that happened, and I was like, "Oh, I guess we can't tour." So we literally woke up, and instead of going onto campus, we drove right up to Columbia and visited, and that was like one of my favorite tours that I had had. So then it seemed like it all worked out. But yeah, what was the question? What was the initial question?
The initial question, I don't even remember. That's the way it goes. I have so many of these. I have the next ones lined up. I don't even. Oh no, it was about if you had a dream school. That's
Oh
what it
yeah.
was.
And you
Okay.
said academically inclined. I think.
Yeah, yes, I was teeing up one question and then another one came in my head, and so I asked that one, which is about the dream
good.
school. Okay, so when it comes to your time at Columbia, you touched on it a little bit about the motivation, like this movie Hitch made you love New York,
Yeah.
the opportunities here creatively. How did the time you're now graduated? How did the experience you had there match up to the expectations that you had going in?
I'd say Columbia is a funny place because, like, yeah, you're at a school that has a campus and everything, but like,
Y'all really don't have a campus.
No, we like if you compared to NYU, I'm saying, and compared to any other school in New York City, like we have somewhere where it's like if you're in that place, like you're at Columbia, and it's not like arbitrary, just you're on a street that has a building on it, you know?
Yeah.
Word
to NYU.
But despite that fact, like people just kind of find their really small groups and then go explore like New York City becomes your campus. And I think originally in my freshman year, like I was very involved in a lot of stuff on campus. I was in a ton of clubs, like I was leading some clubs and in a frat and this and that, like all this stuff. And then like after COVID started, we obviously weren't going anywhere. And from there I kind of just started breaking out. And then by the time senior year came around, I was doing really nothing related to campus, and except Bacchanal, which is our like spring music festival, but it was obviously something like that I was super interested in. But aside from that, it was like all just going downtown, doing sets, hanging out with people from other schools in New York. Like the majority of my friends now didn't even go to Columbia, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's really cool because I just have like this network of people from all these different spots. But yeah, I think it's like I definitely grew farther away from Columbia, but I think in the best way possible. And I don't put any fault on Columbia for that or anything. I think it was like actually a perfect way that it worked out.
Yeah, and it's funny that what you described as the way your experience was exactly how mine was, in the sense of the coming in and being involved with every single club, being the VP of the Black Men's Association, doing all these different clubs, stretching myself way too thin. And then by senior year, the only thing I did was my podcast.
Yeah.
And I was about to say my eating club. That wasn't even like an extracurricular. That was just like
hanging out.
That was just hanging out. So it's just funny how that tends to work out. I think partly for me, it was because COVID was my sophomore spring. Junior year, we essentially lost. We were off campus. First semester, people were not allowed back on campus. We lived off campus. Spring semester, people were allowed back on campus, but it was a very different experience.
Yeah.
So come my senior year, everyone was just like, okay, we need to pack 2.5 years of fun into this one. Dropped all my activities, except the podcast, because it's the thing I love to do the most. Did that and just like had my fun, and also zero regrets about the way that I chose to live out that year.
Yeah.
And now getting into the music, what most people know you for. Before we get to the DJing itself, I'm curious about music. So you said I've always been into music, listened to music in high school. what have your go-to genres always been? What's it when you were if Spotify Wrapped existed in high school, which I don't think it did at that point. If you would have been able to click on your Spotify Wrapped, what would it have looked like? Well, what would a high school Dennis's Spotify Wrapped, what would that have looked like?
Um, in high school, well, I'd say for me, I like really split my high school into two different sections of one being my high school in the Bay where I was like nerdy and whatever the hell, and then the other side being at Taft because I think I just completely changed when I got there. Um, I'd say to start, like in my early years of high school, definitely a lot of rap and a lot of R&B. Similar to a lot of kids like in the Bay, like that's just what we were listening to. A lot of local people from the Bay. I remember this one dude, Anti-Hero 510. He was this dude who went to Oakland Tech, and I just remember like I always when I was trying to get into SoundCloud rapping and stuff, I always wanted to be like him because he was just like he's my age and he's still in the Bay right now, but it was just like always seeing him like, oh, he's the inspiration because he's rapping so good and everything. But then like a ton of other groups in the Bay, SOB RBE was coming out and like we was all listening to them and then like Thug and YSL and all that stuff. So like just a lot of regular rap. I was listening to a lot of Top Dog Entertainment, like all the rappers on there. Isaiah Rashad has been my favorite rapper like from time basically. Him, Kendrick, J Rock, all of them. And then once I got to Taft, I'd say it was a lot of that still. But then added a lot of Afro beats as well. One of like two of my friends, Lonnie and Jamal, were just like putting me on to songs all the time. And I remember Jamal one day. Jamal came into my room and showed me Mo Bamba, and this was like probably a year before like Mo Bamba blew up to what it was, and we were listening to it, and it was like cool, but nobody was like going crazy hype. And then the next year we went to what's that festival in New York called?
Rolling Loud?
No, um, out on Governor's Island,
Go ball.
Governor's
Go
Ball.
ball. Go ball. Yeah, go ball.
Yeah, we went to Gov Ball and Travis Scott was headlining. This was in my like junior year of high school, and he brought out Sheck West,
West.
and nobody knew who Sheck West was, and we were going insane. And that was just like a ton of rap. Like I remember we went to an Uzi concert at Terminal 5 in like 2018, and he had Cardi opening for him, and then Cardi had Lil Skies before him, and it was just like super fun because we were like so in tune with everybody then. But yeah, a ton of Afro beats as well. Listening to a lot of Wizkid and Burna Boy and all that stuff, and then yeah, so that was kind of what it was before college, and then yeah.
Real quick question: what was the first concert you ever went to? I'm always curious.
My first concert I ever went to was a Bryson Tiller concert, and he had Metro Boomin opening for him.
It's always interesting how who you see open for someone, and years later they're just blowing
crazy,
up
right?
and doing their own thing. Yeah.
Bryson Tiller was like just one of my favorites at the time because this was in high school when I wasn't getting over when I was doing nothing in the social
feelings,
scene.
yeah.
I was always in my feelings. I remember like this one girl, she dubbed me at this party, and like I would just listen to Bryson Tiller every day. I had like his SoundCloud, and I knew every song on his SoundCloud like front to back, and I'd just be singing in the mirror like, oh my god, it was so bad. I was very light skinned, like in my light skin moments right there. But yeah, Bryson Tiller first concert.
Dope.
Sure.
Okay. And so, when did the interest in DJing? When did you get that first spark of like, okay, this is something I might be interested in doing?
Yeah, so I'd always been making playlists. Like playlists have been my thing forever. I just love making. My pet peeve is having no flow in music. Like when you go from one song to the next and it's a completely different genre, or it can be a completely different genre, but if it sounds like nothing alike and it's just so whack because you have to keep changing your mood every single time a new song comes on.
Interesting. So do you don't ever shuffle music?
Not like my songs. Only if I'm like, if I'm by myself, sometimes I will. But like in a group setting, no, definitely not. Cause I just like yeah, no, just I don't know. I just don't, cause I think that it creates this small, and I don't even. I think, well, so I'll give you the reason why I got into DJing. So I was rushing this like frat at Columbia called D-Sig, and we were every day they had a party. So every weekend, basically you'd walk into this huge living room, and there'd be somebody up on this like bar, because for some reason the aux cord like came out the side of the wall or something, and you had to like turn your phone a certain way and like bend the aux cord in order for the music to come out. So somebody would have to just like sit there bent over like that, and it was just a phone. So then every time they just play like 45 seconds of a song and then press next and press next and then press next, and they go from like, Mo Bamba to then like Party in the USA to then like some Uzi to then like some house song to this to that.
Sounds like the Ivy League experience.
And yeah, exactly. And the problem with that is like I'm just observing, because I didn't know anybody. I'm just kind of sitting to the side, and I'm looking at all the people as the song's changing. Like you see when the song will abruptly stop and switch, there'll be this like hesitation amongst everybody, and they're kind of like trying to hear what the next song is, but they're also have a moment of like, dang, do I even want to be here right now?
Yeah.
And that no matter if they are having a good time or not, it's like every time that song changes, it's a reset for everybody, and it's like, okay, how am I doing right now? Do I need to leave? Okay, so then there'd be the waves of people would leave as each song was changing. It's like, oh, I don't, when you're like people, it always happened at like school dances and stuff in high school too. Like the song would change, and people are like, oh, I don't like this song, and then the whole group of friends would just walk out the building.
Sounds
it's crazy.
Accurate, yeah.
Like I would do the same thing, but it's like that's how it is. And then you hear a song you like, and you're like, oh, come on back in.
Yeah.
But it's like this just shift of people all over the place, and I was like, that can't happen, at least not in the spaces that I'm gonna be in. Like as long as I'm gonna be in New York, like no way I'm gonna just be walking into parties like this for this whole time. So then it was winter break, and I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do this DJing thing, because I think that would be cool.
Winter break which year?
Of my freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, if I'm gonna add some value to this frat, like that's where it's gonna be at. So I got this little Newmark party mix, which is like the smallest.
The one with the lights on the end?
Yeah, the lights on the end. Yeah, it's like the smallest controller they even have. So I got that. I brought a table into my room and sat on my bed and just had my computer there. I downloaded DJ Pro and just sat there for about 4 days. Literally I wake up at like 9 a.m. and then I just sit there, go upstairs to eat lunch, come back down, do it for the whole day. And I just like, I watched one YouTube video, and then after that, it was just coming pretty easily, because I knew like how BPM work generally. I knew like
you just
knew that.
It's
just like I don't know.
Like, that's not something you just know.
Yeah, like
because I tried, not during the pandemic, that DJing was one of the hobbies that I tried to pick up.
Yeah,
and so the reason I knew the Newmark Party Mix is because that's the one that I also bought, and I was working with. And actually, I did it for like 3 weeks. Like I wasn't like anywhere good, but it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But BPM, I did not just intuitively know. So that's why I'm like, that's not just something people.
I don't know. I just like got it down pretty quick. So then I understood how like the looping was working and fading in songs, and like I wasn't the best at it, but I understood like just the process. So then I brought it back to Columbia and just kept doing it, and then I did like a couple parties there, and then COVID hit, and I, as opposed to a lot of people who started during COVID, I like stopped completely. Didn't think about DJing at all like during that time, because to me like DJing is a party
social
thing.
Okay.
So at the time, I think about it very differently now, but like at the time I definitely thought about it as the only social thing. So it's like there's no point. Why would I do this right now? And then the summer that I came back, so this would have been like after sophomore year, when we were in COVID the whole time. I was living in New York, but like we weren't partying, not doing nothing.
Well, on the record, we weren't partying, but
I was, we definitely were, but I wasn't like DJing or nothing. So then, at the time, the frat had also like disbanded, and a lot of the frats on campus had disbanded. So then we had all these speakers from the frat. And going into the summer, I was working at Goldman Sachs with a ton of other kids that I knew, and we like a side note, we had this group chat of still have this group chat of like 30 kids who are all black kids in finance who are in my grade. And
is that how you know Ifani?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were all
shout out Ifani.
Shout out Ifani. So we were all in this group chat, and one of the kids four of the kids in the group chat Anthony Ramirez, Anesu, Renee, and Jaden, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. But them four were living in an apartment on 107th and Manhattan Avenue, which is maybe like 5 blocks from where my frat was. So they had just moved in and they had this huge basement. Like you walk in and you could probably fit like 150 people in the basement. They had this outdoor area with these stairs, and it just looked so cool for a party. And I was like, I don't know, I'll just go get the speakers from the frat. We have to clear it out anyway. I'll bring them over here. I went and bought an amp. We set them up in the middle of their living room, these huge speakers. And basically we texted the group chat and we were like, tell everybody you know to tell everybody you know to tell everybody you know. And we were like, oh, it'll just be a little thing. I brought my Newmark party mix.
You still had it at that point?
Yeah, I had it in the corner and everything. And it was packed. Like the first night, there's no AC, so there's one big fan. There were probably like 200 people.
Everybody sweat. I know they were sweating. I know they were sweating.
I was playing everything that I could possibly find in my library. Like I just kept playing, and I ended up doing 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on that first weekend. And that was the first weekend. And that ended up happening. I think we had 8 parties there.
Wow.
Every single weekend, either on a Friday or a Saturday. And it would just be very impromptu, like no invitation, no flyer, nothing like that. It would just be like everybody just pull up. And it felt so like such like a raw party, because like you didn't know what was gonna happen. It was just a free, like just whoever wants to pull up can slide. And I remember one of the parties, like the faucet in the bathroom like broke and the whole thing just started spraying against the wall into the hallway, and the smoke started coming up everywhere. So it looked like there was like a fire or something. And then Ness runs into the main room and he's like, everybody get out. And there's at least 100 people in there. He's like, everybody get out. And we thought he was joking. And we were like, we're not stopping. Like, keep going. And then he's like, nah, the faucet's going. So everybody leaves, or they're like trying to fix the faucet. There's water everywhere. Finally, they get it closed. We mopped up the water a little bit, but everyone was standing on the street, like outside. And this apartment is in the basement, so you can't even like, you would never know there's a party going on unless you're in the spot. So he goes back out on the street and is like, we going again. Everybody comes back in, and then a new crowd of people who hadn't even been there had heard about it and came back. We went again till like 4 or 5 a.m. Insane. But yeah, that's kind of how I started. So that whole summer I was doing stuff, and then I remember, but again, I wasn't really thinking about it from like a money perspective. Like I was just doing it because it was fun, and like it was a good to have a music source, whatever. But then at the end of the summer, I was at my barber, Dynasty Raheem, up on 125th.
Shout out Dynasty Raheem.
Yeah, up on 125th in Amsterdam. And he was like, yo, man, you got to start getting in the clubs. I see what you're doing on Instagram. Like, you got to start going to the clubs. Like, you should check out this place downtown. It's called Pianos. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, what's that? For me, and to preface this, I had never, up to this point, I had really never been to like any club downtown. Like I'd been to the Blonde one time in my freshman year, but outside of that, like that whole summer, I had never gone to a club really. I didn't know much about it. So then, and I was like, how does that work? Like they just have DJs there? And like, this is how stupid I didn't even know how clubs work. Like I didn't know how they book DJs, how they this, that. And he was like, yeah, bro, just go down there and write them an email, like, and you should be able to get in. Like, so I was like, all right. So I go down there. This is now in September. The summer had ended. I go down there on like a Saturday, and there's a huge line around the block.
Sounds like Pianos.
I wait in the line. It's like an hour to get in, trying to find the manager. And I had emailed them like a week before.
Wait, so this was in the morning or on a night out?
This is at night.
Okay.
This is like probably 11 o'clock. Okay. I get in, look for the manager, couldn't find the manager anywhere, was chilling. Finally, I found this guy who looked like a manager, and he was like, yeah, I'm running it for the night. And I was like, okay, like I'm a DJ. I've been playing all these parties uptown, like would love to come in here. Blah blah blah, and I look back on it, I probably sounded so stupid, but he was like, yeah, like okay, but yeah, I gotta go do some stuff, like come back in like 30 minutes and then we can like chat or something. And I was like, okay. So I went out, smoked for like a second, and I wasn't with anybody, so I was kind of just like waiting around, and I was like, this is stupid. So I tried to go back in. The bouncers were like, no, you can't come back in, like, or we don't even know who you are. And I just told them like, oh, I'm coming back in.
Come back in.
And they acted like they didn't know who I was. And this line is huge, so I'm like, all right, if I wait again, I'm not even gonna get in before this place closes. So I'm like, all right, if I want it this bad, what do I got to do? So I'm looking at the line. The guards are like at the end of the railing, and then there's this whole part right in front of the door that's just like nobody standing there. So I walk up, jump over the railing, and run in. The 2 guards from this side and 1 guard from that side started chasing me in the spot. I hid in the bathroom for like 10 minutes, came out, was running around trying to find the manager. Finally, I found him. And right when I found the manager, the guards like saw me.
Damn.
So then they start like running up to me, and I wrote, and there was a piece of paper right there. And I was like, yo, please, just like call me, please. And then I gave my number my email my number to the guy. Then the next week, Jackson from Pianos emailed me and was like, yo, like, would love to have you in.
What a fucking story.
What
a story.
My first set. And I did a set for this. The first set that I actually did was for this group called Pop That Pussy. That was the name of their collective. And
PTP,
they gave me a good opportunity. They let me come in. I did like an hour from like 10 to, oh no, I may have done 2 hours, 10 to 12, in the back room, I believe. Got paid
bottom back room.
Yeah, okay. And I think I got paid $50, and I was like, this is the best money I ever got in my life. And I was like, this is so cool. So I kept like linking up with them, started doing more parties with them. And then it just kind of grew from there, and I started reaching out to other clubs and being like, I played at this place, like, let me get there. And then it just kind of kept progressing, and it was really slow, but like, yeah, it's paying off now.
That's a great story. And I'm going to ask you when you felt it pick up and when you kind of knew like, okay, there's something that I could have a little bit of success with. But I just love so many things about that story. Yeah. One, many people would have probably just given up. When the bouncers don't let them back in, they might be too scared about the consequence of getting kicked out. You knew what you wanted. You knew why you were there. So you went for it, and it ultimately led to you getting your first paid performance, which is that's a great story. Great story. I bet. See, that's why we do podcasts. I doubt however many people have listened to you DJ. I bet they don't know that's how you got your first.
Absolutely. I think in the music, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and this was after I had done that, but. This guy named Rob Stevenson, he works at 300 Entertainment. He's one of like the top executives there, and I interned there. And this is an interesting story. Basically, I was interning there in the royalties and rights management department. One of like 12 interns, I think, in the program, 12 to 20 or something. But I was one of the 5 who was actually in New York at the time during this internship, and this was in my junior. This was the same exact time period, so this was in my junior fall. And he basically, our intern coordinator was like, yo, we have this artist coming in. His name is Des Rocks, and he's like this rock artist whose mascot is like or whose like symbol, if you will, is a rat, because he calls all his fans dirty animals, or dirty, filthy animals or something. So it's like, that's just his thing. And I was like, okay. And she's like, so we need somebody to, and she was like, it would be great if we could have somebody go to the concert dressed in a rat costume and greet fans. And I was like, yeah. I responded literally in 5 minutes. I was like, oh, yeah.
Why not?
Like, when else would I ever get this opportunity to go do that? So I go, and I had to go to this store, pick up this huge rat costume. The eyes look down, so I can't even, like, the way it's positioned, like, I'm like looking at the ground. So when I'm like greeting people, I'm like kind of just looking at their feet. So then I'd like smile and take pictures. I'd be like this, and the heads up, whole thing. But anyway, I did that, and for like 2 hours, it was a crazy show. But after, we had like drinks with the whole 300 team, and this guy, Rob Stevenson, came up to me, and he was like, Dennis, if you want to make it in this industry, in the music industry more broadly, you gotta do things that other people will never be willing to do. and you did that today, and I have taken that to heart through everything that I've done because like this it's very true. Like in the music industry, there's no degree that can really help you stand out from anybody else. There's no single experience. It's like what can you do in the moment that will progress to get from point A to point B, because there's a lot of moments where shit is just gonna hit the fan and you got to do something like that isn't in your job title that you just got to pick up, and it's like that's just what I tried to do with everything from DJing to actual career stuff.
Yeah, and exactly. I think you can really apply that to anything that you do. And I think that also is very similar to I forget who it was that told me this, but what they said was like earlier on your career, you should really just be saying yes to everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Because none of us, anyone at our age, we're not really in a point where we've progressed far enough where it's like we should really be turning down opportunities.
Yeah,
So, so it's like, do you want to attend this meeting? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It's always yes, yes, yes. I think I've just always been that way, been the first one to put my hand up. And then that also reminds me of the movie Air. Did you watch that movie?
Yeah.
Very similar in how the way, I'm forgetting the main character's name, but the way he got the meeting with Michael Jordan's mom was everyone was saying, don't show up to the house, don't do this, don't do that. But he was like, fuck it, I know what I want. I think Sonny Vaccaro, was that what his name was? I'm going to show up, drive to North Carolina, show up at the door. And that's how ultimately got the interview or the meeting with Michael Jordan, signed him, and then Air Jordan is what it is. So
definitely.
That's just great advice in whatever it is that you're doing, but especially if it's something that's a little bit harder to navigate. It's not like finance where connections will do it, or just whatever other industry where
free game always
where connections will do it.
Yeah.
Then okay, so since you had to start taking it more seriously, you had to develop a DJ name. Tell me about how you came up with Dennis Free, and how did you transform from Dennis Future to Dennis Free?
Franklin Future.
Oh, I didn't even know that was the whole thing. So it's Dennis Franklin Future.
No, just Franklin Future.
Franklin.
No Dennis.
The DJ name previous was Franklin
just
Future.
Franklin Future.
Okay, how'd you
get a big piece of it? Because
Okay.
that's part of why I changed it. I was going by Franklin Future basically for like all from high school all the way. That was like my Instagram name all the way through like basically halfway through my junior year. And I changed it because everybody on the street would just be calling me Franklin everywhere, and like nobody knew my actual name, and it sounds fine, but like I didn't want people calling me Franklin. And I was like, dang, so what do I do like to get a new name? Or they said I don't even know if I changed whenever I changed it. Anyway, I changed it. I was sitting on a beach with some of my friends, and I was like, what do I change it to? Like, I could combine some stuff. And one of the things I was really thinking about is I really wanted to incorporate my mom's side. My mom is Chinese, and my whole mom's family is Chinese, and that's like a super integral part of my life because I was always spending time with them in the Bay, and her maiden name is Yi. So I was like, well, if people still wanting to go by Franklin, like I'm gonna just combine Franklin and Yi, Dennis Free, just do something like that. Free sounds kind of cool, so yeah.
Okay,
that's pretty much it.
That's again creative. In my mind, I was like free. I thought it was just like freedom, like free, which could be like the alternate. I mean,
that's the alternate
that's
thing,
an alternate meaning, but the actual combination of the words isn't something that you would just
definitely
think of intuitively. And when did you graduate from the Newmark party set to something?
During that summer when I was in like doing those parties at 107. One of my good friends from high school, Sean Cummings, he was also learning DJ, and he had a DDJ 400, and he gave that to me for the whole summer to be able to use, and that was a
shout out Sean Cummings.
For sure.
And then about the show, when you shout people out, you got to send them the episode after.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And you don't tell them where you mentioned them; you just say you were mentioning.
You watch the whole thing.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But yeah, he gave that to me for the summer, so I used that and pretty much actually continued to use it basically until I got my controller that I use now, which is an RX2, which is like an all-in-one. But up to that point, I didn't really have anything. I learned like CDJs, which is the main systems that you use in clubs. Like I learned all those on the fly because at the time I didn't know about these pirate studios where you could go and like practice on them.
Okay.
So I'd basically just walk into, I'd have like pictures of these CDJs on my phone and to see what it looked like, and then I'd just like be pressing buttons for a couple seconds before I actually started, and I just had to figure it out. Because otherwise it would be like, otherwise I'd have to bring in a controller and put it on top and just look crazy. So I was like, let me just force myself into it. So.
And when did after I'm taking it all the way back from doing those initial parties, you do the first one in pianos, you start to do more shows. How does the level of preparation that you do for shows change as it goes from more so their parties are always social, but from something that's more of you and your friends to I'm getting paid for this. There's a group of people who have never seen me do this before. Did you at all change what your preparation was for shows? And if even if you didn't, just talk me through what the prep is like for DJing a night out. If there's any at
Honestly,
all, you could just show up.
no. Yeah, I mean, I don't change the way I DJ for friends versus like public audiences. I think that every time I DJ, I'm proving to whoever's listening that I'm a good DJ. So even if it's my best friends, like they're gonna tell me if I sound like shit. And the same thing with the crowd, they're just gonna leave if you sound like shit. So it's
Uh-huh.
like you got to be on top of your game all the time. In terms of preparation, uh depending on where I'm playing at, I'll usually like make a or I won't even make a track sometimes I'll make a track list depending on if it's like if it's a specific like radio show or something like that, I will, but normally it's just like I'll through the week between one set and another set, I'm always listening to music like every single day. I wake up, put on a playlist. I'm just going on like radios of songs and like and the suggested of stuff like consistently doing that throughout the day. So I never really listen to any music that I've heard before unless I've heard like I won't let myself listen to anything that I already know unless I've listened to something that I haven't heard before every day. So then I'm always like adding stuff. So then as time goes on, I'm adding more and more stuff to my library. And then between those two periods, I'll have like a collection of maybe like 30, 40 songs, and I'll take those and add them to my USB, and then I'll just add them into the set.
And
So
I think that answered the question I was going to ask you about if your music taste was initially very vast or if in the process of DJing you've had to expand it. And I think
oh,
that just
definitely. No, I'd say I mean my music taste has always been pretty vast, but I was never comfortable playing everything that I listen to, if that makes sense.
are there any genres you stay away from?
Um I'd say EDM I don't really play, and then like mm, reggaeton, I just need to get understand it more. I think I love like the sound, like the way that reggaeton sounds is just so great. But I just don't have enough in my library to like play it all the time.
Gotcha. It's not
Um,
ready yet to be whipped out of the arsenal.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think those two are the only ones that I haven't like really explored as much, but everything else like I pretty much get in all the time. But yeah, I when I first started, I was really just playing, like I said, like hip hop and R&B. But now I went to London like in my first part of my senior year and just really got into that scene of like all garage and jungle and drum and bass. And I remember I was at this club called Dalston Den. I wouldn't even call it I mean it was a club, but it was a den, literally. Like the ceiling was probably like this. Like if I'm standing, like the ceiling is like about this high. Like people, it's super low, it's super sweaty in there. But people are like I've never felt that much energy like in a space before, and it was just so amazing to see that because you play this super fast music, the bass is just kicking crazy, and yeah, so I started getting really into that side as well. So that a piano has just been huge, obviously, and
Taking
I've
over the
been
world.
loving
Yeah.
just like exploring that. And then not as much rap anymore, honestly, unless I'm in a setting where like people are just annoyed as fuck that I'm not playing rap. But mostly I kind of stick to like a piano and garage and jungle and like house as well. So
That's another
yeah.
question I always wonder about for DJs is when you are going through a night and you feel like the energy, not saying that this happens to you, but if you feel the energy shifting in a way that like people are becoming more restless, people might start making suggestions. How do you strike the balance of staying true to what you're doing versus just saying, fuck it, they requested Mo Bamba, I'll play Mo Bamba.
I used to just play whatever people want. I know I wouldn't say I've ever played whatever people wanted, but I used to make a lot more like uh I used to concede a lot more
Yeah,
to
you didn't stick to your
suggestions.
guns. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually good because now I only use basically when I DJ I just use like USBs like this.
Oh, you carry a USB?
And
Damn.
yeah, I got my
Yo, he's a
little
DJ. Wait,
USB
should
line.
twist? Let the camera see the USB. I don't think they
Hold
could.
on.
He's got a whole This is crazy.
So my 3.
This is crazy.
Yeah, always with me. But now that I only have USBs, if I don't have a song, like I can't play it.
That
So
could
then
be your
just tell
excuse. I
people,
don't have
I don't have it. Like, I don't know
it.
what you want me to do. But then I also just don't try to, and it's difficult in Manhattan, but I try not to put myself into situations where I'm around a crowd that's being that restless to where it's like play this, play that,
Mhm.
because I think that I only want to be in spaces where the DJ is thought of as a performer as opposed to a background like to the party, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always been my thing because I like I take it very seriously, and I think that I don't want to be thought of as replaceable. I think that a lot of places in New York, the DJs are in like the DJs are kind of just a background to whatever's going on. Is the DJ's a
Like a
background.
prop kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the DJ might as well be a bartender. It's like oh, it's just the person who happens to be there for the night. Like they're not doing anything special. It's not memorable. It's just like whatever. And for me, like that's kind of pointless to me because why am I? Then it's just like a job. Why am I
Yeah.
going there? I don't need this money, so it's like why am I going there for that? So it's like yeah, I think I try to just put myself into spaces where it's really like the DJ is the center of the attention, if you will.
Yeah,
It
which
sounds
is
like vain, but like it just makes it much more interesting for me and for the crowd because it's like they're gonna get something new, I'm gonna be able to present something new, and then also have a good time doing it. Because like I don't want to go to the same spot and hear the same top 40 songs every single time and this and that, and it's like okay, like I could have went anywhere in New York and had the same experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that's vain at all. I think DJing is an art. You're an artist.
Yeah.
Anyone who produces art, they want to be the center of attention,
True,
to
yeah.
make
That's
people
true.
feel better, to just, again, it's not just about you. It might be partially, but also just making people feel good as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will say, because at this point, I've seen you DJ a bunch of times, but I think, I don't remember the first time I saw you DJ, but I do remember one time, like, it came up that you were DJing somewhere. I don't remember where it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the way people were describing you and the excitement and people calling you an artist and all this. And I was like, okay, I'd seen him out, but I'd never just like been like, okay, let me pay attention to what he's doing. And I think just by the way the people are already talking about you, you are getting that desired effect of people aren't just showing up to treat you as a prop. They know Dennis is going to be somewhere. They want to be there because he puts on a show every time. And I can even say that from the weekend a few weekends ago where you did the Black Ivy brunch and then you did Angels Party at Night.
Nice, yeah.
different vibe, different type of performance, but both times getting people into it, keeping people going. When you did, I think one of the first times I remember seeing you DJ was at like Hotel Chantel, probably like late last summer. And it was the type of thing where it was like,
that was actually one of my least favorite sets I've ever done.
Interesting. I'm about to ask, okay, that's going to lead right into my next session. But I was going to say, even at that point, it was like, okay, when I sit and I'm paying attention, like I appreciate what he's doing and how he's mixing and doing those types of things. So I would say you've definitely been able to achieve that and you're getting that desired effect out of people, which is dope to see when you put so much effort into something, when you get it is good to see the respect on that. Okay, so then I was going to ask about probably like bad performances, if you've ever bombed, like what that's been like. So if you want to talk about this Hotel Chantal
night.
I'll
talk about I don't think I've ever bombed necessarily. There's this one time I just got too drunk before and I wasn't even expecting to DJ, and then I just went up there and then I was like, wow, I'm just like not doing good. But that's like I haven't really bombed it at all. It's because the thing is, bombing is a like if I'm a singer, if I just sing well, like people will respect that. But it's like if I play well to my standards as a DJ, people might just not like the songs that I'm playing, and then to them I bombed. But it's like I'm playing the same things that I know are good, and it's like, so if I'm just
it's not me, it's shit.
Yeah, it's like if I'm doing my transitions well, and I feel like I wouldn't say I've like bombed at all. But yeah, that one set at Hotel Chantel was just ridiculous. Like, and it's crazy because that's honestly the set that I think I've gotten paid the most out of any set that I've ever done. So it's kind of crazy that it was my least favorite because they wanted me to come back, and I was like,
Nah, why was it? What made it
yeah, the
your least
venue
favorite?
itself had just very bad equipment. None of the stuff was working, so I had to literally, it was 10 minutes before my set. I figured out that the link between side of one CDJ and the other wasn't working. They use like an Ethernet cable to connect the two, and it wasn't connecting. So basically, that meant I needed two USBs in order to play, and I only had one at the time. So then I was like, well, shoot. So I had to literally run to my friend's apartment, and luckily my controller, the new one, the RX2 that I just bought, was there. So I was able to play. I ran down the street, got it, came back with this huge bag, like, and I had to play off that. But then the crowd at Hotel Chantel is like exactly what I was talking about. I guess everybody's coming up like, play Taylor Swift, play this, play that. And I'm like,
that is the Hotel
like
Chantel
no
crowd. Yeah.
respect for anything that I was doing. It's just like screaming. Everybody in the venue is just talking loud as hell. Like nobody's really paying attention to the music because it's not loud enough to where they actually like can hear it, but then they don't care as much unless they're like intentionally listening. It's like I'm literally just an aux cord in the
Yeah.
corner, and I think like, and the DJ booth itself is literally in a corner, which just like ruins the whole space. So it's like, yeah, it was just not like it was not enjoyable. I played for like 45 minutes. And it was just like, yeah, I was just having a terrible time. I finished and like everyone was like, "Oh my God, good job." And I was like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, that was it.
Like, and it's crazy because like probably from like your perspective or other people's perspective, it was like, "Oh, that was a good one."
Yeah,
But
like I
it's
said, that
like,
was one of the
I
first
just,
times I
yeah,
consciously remember you DJing.
I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, that was awful. Like I just had it wasn't that I did bad. It's just like I didn't have a good time with the crowd like response. Like it was to the point where I was like not even hearing the music because it's like the crowd was just so loud, which I think is just it's just like not that interesting to me.
So on the flip side, where are some of your favorite places to DJ in the city, and what are some nights that stand out as like this venue was great, the audience was great?
The first no the second time I played at the Jane was crazy.
I don't even know if I've ever been to
The Jane is on the
there's
west
so
side.
many
It's
names
not
that you
open
hear.
anymore.
Okay, that's what
It
'cause I'm
closed like last year, but that
Okay.
was like definitely just like one of the most iconic clubs in the city. And I got three opportunities to play there, opening sets 10 to 12. And it was just like and it was crazy because the 10 to 12 set is like very difficult because the club really opens at 10, so it's like people really aren't there until like 11:15 ish.
Yeah.
And then even so, like they're not drunk, so they're not really getting into it. But I just like found a way to just get people like excited. And then that like kind of hour long 45-minute period, it was just perfect. And I was hitting every single transition, doing everything right. So that one was good. I'd say I had a really good one in London at this spot called Scotch, and it was the second time I'd performed there for the time that I was there. It was a 3 to 4 a.m. set, and I was like, damn, this is mad late. But people were just getting to the venue at 3.
Sounds like
I was
a marquee
wow.
type spot.
Yeah, so I was
Not
like,
marquee. What's the one in Brooklyn? Not marquee.
oh, like
The
the
outdoor
Mirage?
one, Mirage. Yeah.
So it was perfect. And it
Artist
was
comes
like,
on at like 3 a.m. It's like,
yeah,
damn.
super like small spot. It's kind of like Kind Regards down in Lower East Side, like that has the upstairs, and then you go down, and that's like where the real club area is. And I was just going crazy and I was getting to play all of the stuff that I really love, like all the like UK funky house and the garage stuff and the this and that. And it was like such a great place where nobody was interrupting me. Everyone was just listening in the zone. Like the energy was just perfect. That was like definitely one of my favorites. And then I'd say um yeah, I don't know. A couple of pianos has always been fun. Honestly, I've never had a lot of people like show hate to pianos. I love pianos. Like every time I go there, everybody's so great. Like Jackson, the manager,
Shout out Jackson.
Jackson Lewis. He's like he always like brings us in. We have a great time there.
I'm not gonna say it's funny because I'm someone who I haven't been to piano since intern summer. Actually, I remember loving it that summer.
Yeah.
Last time I tried to go like honestly like a month ago. the line was so long, the bouncers were doing a lot, and so we didn't end up getting in.
Yeah.
But from what I remember, I also loved pianos and had a great time there. But it's funny because I've also heard some people say differently, but I'm like, from what my
Yeah.
experience there, I've had a good time.
No, it's just the upstairs is really well, all the rooms, but the upstairs especially is really fun because people are like there to dance. They're not there to like tell you what to play. Like,
Yeah, and the
so I
music's good up
really,
there too.
yeah. So I really get a good opportunity to do
Yeah, and
stuff.
I remember that summer, that intern summer, that was the first place I discovered that played any type of Afro beats at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other spots I was going to before that were
Yeah,
like
for sure.
the gray ladies of the world. Which
Yeah,
honestly, I I had my fun there, but like
yeah,
at a certain point, you want to hear a certain type of music, and I remember vividly pianos being the first place where it was like Afro beats, some rap, some reggae. Like I'm just like, okay, the
yeah.
music is
No,
doing
absolutely.
what it needs to do here. And we're wrapping up in a little bit, but when you think of kind of how you've progressed musically, who are some of the dream? Actually, no. First, even before that, have you had any as you've taken the DJ more seriously? Who in the DJ world would you consider some of your inspirations?
There's a couple. I'd say, um, Joti is like one of my favorite DJs. She's from Amsterdam, I believe, and it's funny because I'm actually gonna be opening for her elsewhere in September, which
There
is
you
really
go.
sick.
Congratulations. That's insane.
Super like full circle moment. Yeah, she's sick. She has a style that's very genre agnostic, which is what I really do, and I think that she's one of the few who does it at like a high level too, because it's so like you don't really find that many DJs a lot of people will be like, what do you play, this that, and people will be like, I play techno, or I play house, or I play this or that, and it's like for me, I kind of just go wherever I want to go that night. So then it's really cool to see people like her who are like doing that same thing. This other guy, Jael, is like similar vibe, very like all over the place in terms of what he plays, and it's always sick. Joe K, the guy, he hosts Selection Radio. He's always been an inspiration. Like I listen to his episodes on Selection every single week. Super cool stuff. There's these two guys in London, Tommy Gold and Hank K. And they have this. I've just like always followed them, and from an inspiration perspective of like how I can market myself as like a younger DJ, because they're similar age to me, but they're like really doing a good job with. They have this record label called like Fajita Disco, which is super cool, and I'm always like looking at their page just to see like get inspiration from there. And they're both sick. And then who else? Yeah, not many. I don't have like any huge name DJs who I'm like, oh my god, I want to be like that. Like Black Coffee, I've always really liked, but I'm not. Again, he's like a very specific type of DJ, so I don't really see myself in him as much as I do with
Mhm.
like Joe T or Joe K and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I'd say that group of people is like they're all sick.
Gotcha. And yeah, I can't even lie. I don't know any of them,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like more
No,
DJ specific.
definitely
Yeah.
check them out. They're all really cool.
And last question before we wrap up with the music segment. Did you prepare the songs?
No.
You didn't prepare the songs?
What songs?
I said in the text message 5 songs that describe who you are as a person.
Oh, I can do that. I can still do
Okay,
that.
you can do it off the dome. Okay,
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
damn, you got to prepare. Because I
Yeah,
remember who was
yeah.
it? Check who didn't. Someone didn't prepare.
No,
I was like,
that's
come
fine.
on. Okay, bet.
5 songs that describe me as a person.
But yeah, that'll be the last question. But with your venture into music, I know you're working at Apple as what's the specific role?
Apple Music, my role is global DJ mix partnerships.
Gotcha. Which I don't even. What's that mean?
Basically, 2 years ago, Apple Music bought Shazam, or Apple bought Shazam, but like Apple Music really. And with that acquisition, basically there's been a fundamental issue in the DJ space, is where like if you post a mix, you can't really get paid for it anywhere.
Okay.
You post it on SoundCloud or Mixcloud, and it's like it's out there, but it's more of a marketing tool because there's not paying you as a DJ from SoundCloud. Nothing is happening like that. So basically, what Apple did is use the back end technology of Shazam to be able to segment out every single song in a mix that you put out, and then not only be able to pay you out as a DJ, but also the rights holders of every song, and then also any curator. So like if it came from a festival or a club or whoever made that moment happen, pay them out as well. Um, So basically, my job is to coordinate all of the partnerships with like three main segments being clubs, uh music festivals, and any brands. So brands being like we have two main ones right now, Palace Skateboards and MA Leon Dor. And they have like these mixed series that they've been putting out, and then like festivals like, Tomorrowland, Electric Zoo, whatever, anything that's like very DJ centric festivals. And then nightclubs that are just like very music oriented, like uh Trezor Berlin, or like Fabric in London, like all the huge clubs that really like prioritize DJs. So helping them get curator pages on the site, and then on Apple Music, and then like basically just making sure that everything is going well, helping them create their mix series and stuff like that. So
Dope.
yeah.
Dope. I feel like we could have a whole nother conversation about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I've only been there for, this is my 6th week now, but it's been like really fun because it's been a lot of strategy stuff just within Apple Music, but then also like just getting to know the broader DJ space, which I thought I knew a lot about, but there's a lot that I still have
You
to
don't know?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're doing that currently. You've worked
Yeah.
at a few record labels.
Mhm.
What would you say is the dream for you music wise? Is it to be on the stage being the performer? Is it to be finding talent? What would you say is the dream for you?
I don't know, honestly. I like, of course I want to be a huge DJ. Like it would be sick if I could just tour around DJing. But like I also this job I have right now so far, I absolutely love it. Like I've been able to just meet a lot of really cool people, and I still get to have that business mindset that I don't think I get to have as much on the DJ side. So I'm kind of trying to grow the two equally, and then whatever happens happens, but I'm not gonna drop one for the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I just want to go side by side for as long as I can.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. Dope. And the way that we will wrap this is with your 5 songs.
Yeah, let me
And
actually have like a playlist that kind of has a ton of songs.
there you go. And so this is the only recurrent segment that I do on the show. I've been doing it since like episode 15. I ask the guest to come with 5 questions that describe who they are as a person. I leave it up for interpretation. So people have taken it in many different ways. That's the prompt that I give, and I let them run with it. So just say the song and say why.
The first one I think would be like Love Yours, J. Cole.
That's my favorite song.
I think that's just something I've gone by. Like, I don't know. I feel like my life could have gone a lot of different directions.
You could be a hockey
And
player right now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. And I think it's like it's just, I don't know. I've been every kind of era, if you will, of my life. I've been very like made sure to be very passionate about it and not get discouraged. Like my motto for the last at least like 4 or 5 years has just been progress, consistent progress.
Get 1% better every day.
If I'm not, because that's the thing. If I'm if I have like some little gain all the time, like I can look back and see it all, which is great. And I think that that's been, especially with DJing, like if you're not like taking those little wins to heart, like you're just never gonna make it, because it's so frustrating on those nights when like nobody shows up to you. I remember in my junior year of when I started DJing, I had this residency for like 3 months at this spot called Madam X in Soho, and it was every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And I'd like just insane hours, and I'd get home at like 5, 6 in the morning, and then I'd have to go to school at like 8:40 class.
Man.
And that was just like a tough, and it was every Wednesday, so obviously like nobody's showing up. Nobody was there that I knew. It'd be like maybe 4 people at a time in the venue, which was just like ass. But I'd go and I'd be like, all I'm gonna do, these 2 people sitting at the table, like at the bar, I'm gonna make them like start bobbing their heads. I'm gonna make sure they compliment me when they leave because my music is so good. Like I put in all my effort into every single thing, because it's like that's all you can do in that moment. You can't just quit right there, like just because nobody showed up to your set.
Yeah.
It's just has to happen. So yeah, constant progress. But yeah, Love Yours, definitely a big one. I'd say, I'd say, well, that's not really See, I like a lot of songs. I don't know if a lot of them would
if they describe it, yeah.
describe me. I'd say Get Money, Junior Mafia.
Okay.
I just think like shit. Like I always definitely been motivated trying to get more. Not even necessarily from a money perspective, but just get something. Just get it. Get after it. Like and I think it goes both ways. Like
AOG, always on grind.
Always on
that
grind.
was a good name from the start.
I had to go to I remember I had to renege on my offer from Goldman to go to I was gonna go back there junior summer, and I ended up staying at RCA and working there, and that was a big decision because I went from making I was gonna make base whatever prorated of a ton of money
A lot.
to making like $17 an hour working at RCA, and it was like a huge decision. But I was just like, I'm passionate about it. And I know if I do a good job here, I could get money going anywhere. So it's like that's kind of the motivation I took for that. I'd say The Art of Storytelling by Outkast.
Okay.
Definitely another one. I think being able to just craft the story that I've had is like I feel like it's very unconventional. I always feel very regular about like where my life has been, but then I also think about it from another person's perspective, and I'm like, my life is just kind of crazy. All the things that I've been doing. So I think like weaving that like path and telling that story has been.
And I feel like you can
pretty
also
interesting.
say that as a DJ, you're a storyteller in a way. So that
Yeah,
could also
yeah.
have that
No,
little
absolutely.
little
On the
double
DJ
meaning.
side too. I'd say I'd say So Much Trouble in the World, Bob Marley.
Okay.
I think that's one.
You saying like somewhere in the shirt?
Oh yeah. Shoot. Oh sorry. Yeah, I think I've had a lot of moments of like just reflection on my position in the world and whatnot. I don't really know how to expand on that, but I just think like I remember in freshman year in college after all the stuff happened with George Floyd, I wrote this huge memo to like a ton of people in my high school and like a ton of people in college about just like my experience growing up and whatnot and how it was in like being black growing up. And for me, not being fully black was a whole different thing, but like that as well. And just like perception and everything. I think that's been an interesting journey on that side as well. I would say
Song number 5, Bring It Home.
this is 5. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 5th.
I'd say now, maybe 18 and Over by Nia Archives.
Oh, no.
Nia Archives is this jungle artist who's like one of my favorite, and she does all these like takes all these reggae samples and like flips them. But 18 and Over is a song that she flipped, but her whole thing in it is like this life she has is like not designed anymore for like it's only designed for people 18 and over. And I think that's 18 because she's from UK, so like just of age, whatever. But like I feel like everything that I'm involved in now is just for like people going out and stuff, and like with being a DJ and like club life and all that stuff. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha.
Goes along with that.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Perfect timing too.
Yeah,
this was a great episode. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you coming on, being open, being honest. I think this is going to be a dope episode for people to listen to. And yeah, I think that's part of the reasons I like to do this is I've met you a few times. This is the most in-depth we've ever spoken.
For sure, yeah.
Gotten to know you a lot better. Even when I do these episodes with some of my friends, I learn new things about them. So it's just always cool to get a different side of a person. But yeah, thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Go With The Flow.
Who am I looking at? Oh, right there.
That camera right there.
Sick.
So appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.